And very happy Women's Day to you as well. And as expected, Microsoft Teams decides to not cooperate too much with me today again. It's going on and off. Give me a minute and I'll turn back the camera again.
Sure.
How are you celebrating Holi and Women's Day at Tensukara?
So we've done a series of things for Women's Day with couple of our women's talent, either writing a piece of content on this specific day. We've pulled out a series of short videos which are talking around what drives women, with some interesting nuggets that are coming up with women leaders across Kara. And coming back to Holi, I hate playing with the color. I did that long back in college, and it's been a few years now that I stay put at home when it is Holi. So, barring having a little bit of sweet, which is tradition, I don't think I've done anything much over the last few years on Holi. How about you?
I usually love the festival of Holi. Holi is one of my favorite festivals. Actually, I like Holi more than I like Diwali.
Got
I love to play with colors. Obviously, in younger days, we've had our own fair bit of fun with Holi. Last couple of years have been muted, but now I have a 3-year-old niece who loves the whole pitchkari thing. She doesn't play with colors, obviously, but like with water, she wants to squirt water throughout the day, like all kids do. So I think
it.
I end up playing quite a bit with her.
Oh, that's really nice. Pooja, we're just going to give it a couple of minutes. I want a couple of more people to join from our office, and then we can start.
Sure thing. I think Radima's also circulated this to the Vasuni system. So hopefully some people from our office are also expected to join.
Okay, so then we'll give it a couple of minutes. In the meantime, to the larger Kara team, a very, very happy Holi to everyone and a happy Women's Day as well, a day in advance. But I feel absolutely delighted and proud to have such amazing women talent within the Kara fold. And it's nice to see, equally amazing talent at our client side as well. And Pooja is one such professional that I've had the pleasure of working for a small stint, and then she disappeared to a business which I couldn't really continue to service her on. And then I couldn't be more happy when I saw her back at Philips, back into our fold and servicing her again. So it's been absolute pleasure and delight to welcome her back to the Philips family.
Thank you so much, Anita, for saying that. I have to tell and a warm welcome and a very big hello to the whole Kara team and all the people from Vasuni who just joined in. Um, Coming back to Philips Domestic Appliances, now Vasuni is like coming back home for me. This is the business that I've grown up with. Kara team is like working with friends again because a lot of these people I've worked with for a long period of time. I've learned a lot about media from some of these people who I've worked really closely with. And it's always a pleasure to work with you personally, Anita. I think I really, really am looking forward to seeing how much we can bring this partnership to life and benefit both brands together.
Thank you so much. So we have almost about 70, 80 odd people on the call right now. So we will formally start the session, if I may. So team, I'm going to start introducing, Pooja. So while we've had a small chat right now, I need to kind of let you know the kind of experience that Pooja has had in this industry and the success that she's had in her role. So she leads the market. She's the marketing head for Philips Domestic Appliances India Limited. She's a seasoned business marketer. She comes with 14 years of experience in building businesses from scratch and establishing brands through creative and unique marketing strategies. At Philips Domestic Appliances, she's responsible for the overall marketing strategy for the organization. Prior to joining Philips Domestic Appliances, Pooja was head end-to-end marketing strategy and AMP experiences or amplification for the Coca-Cola India Private Limited company, where she, along with her team, and these are some memorable campaigns that you would have heard of, is Har Haath Tufan, the Palat De campaign for Thumbs Up, which I really loved, and the India's first metaverse wedding for Coca-Cola, among others. She's also been associated with ITC, where she's played an integral role in building several brands across her various roles. This is one of my ones which I really love seeing women leaders get. She's been recognized among the 40 under 40 marketeers by Agency Reporter, and is a young leader by the Economic Times. uh, Drawn to the challenges with a vision to push her limits and go beyond, she has also built and divested an e-commerce portal in the food aggregation space quite early in her career. Another great move for a marketer to understand the new age ecosystem, which I feel is really worthy of an applaud. She enjoys working with and mentoring startups to help them grow their businesses. So again, somebody who's future forward thinking and has been able to drive the new age ecosystem of the D2C brands. Pooja is an MBA from International Management Institute, Delhi, and is an alumni of Xavier's College, Calcutta, from where she's graduated with honors in economics. Pooja, welcome to the Kara Women's Day celebration.
Thank you so much, Anita, and thank you so much for saying all those nice things about me.
It's been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you with us today. So, Pooja, I'm going to quickly start with, asking for you to talk us through your career trajectory, how you started, and the journey from where you were to where you are today. How has that career trajectory moved?
Um, I know. So I often have this conversation with a lot of young women that I like to work with or mentor, and I often reflect back on how my career journey has been. And I think it's going to be unfair to call it a career journey the way it's been without giving it a bit of a context. So I am from a very traditional Marwari family. Um, I've grown up having dreams of being married to a Marwari boy, settling down, having a family, raising children, being a homemaker. That's the fabric in which I've grown up. But I think somewhere while I was growing up, um, my mother, she used to be really good at her studies when she was in her school days. She was a Rajasthan topper in board exams. But as was the custom in those days, she wasn't allowed to pursue her studies further, and she was married off, etc. I think she somewhere nurtured these dreams of having financial independence and having a career and identity of her own. And I think somewhere because she couldn't have it on her own, she planted that seed in us. And I say us because I also have an elder sibling who's a much more successful career person than I am. And both of us grew up at one level in an orthodox family which wanted to rear girls in a certain level, but also we were continuously being nurtured by our parents, mother and father both, to have dreams of our own and to step out and create identities of our own. And I think that was really the genesis of the want to have an identity and having a career. um, Going to a co-educational college was a big step in our community at that point in time. Xavier's is a co-educational college. Stepping out of home city and home and doing an MBA in a residential campus was a big step at that point in time. And I think without their support, we wouldn't have been able to do it. Um, but yeah, my career trajectory really started while I was still at home, because we were continuously encouraged to make our own pocket money. When we were on holidays and breaks, we were encouraged to take up odd jobs, even if it is in our own business, to support with books of accounts or accounting entries into software and stuff like that, and we were paid for it. So I think that really was the starting of my career journey. Um, but I think even post MBA, I've been really lucky to be working with a lot of very interesting brands. I started my career with ITC, which is a very well-known name in the FMCG world. Excellent training ground for sales and marketing. Um, and I think I had a very interesting period learning with them. From there, I decided to quit, and I wanted to do something of my own. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I always love autonomy. I love to do things my own way. So I started this food service aggregator portal called Hunger Pangs. This was a Swiggy predecessor, about 5 years before them. And I spent about a year and a half being a solopreneur. So end to end, it was completely me, all operations, logistics, marketing. Whatever money I had managed to earn through my job in the preceding 4 5 years were all spent trying to build really this portal. Um, Ran with it for about a year and a half and then decided to monetize and come back to the corporate world to earn some more money. And that is where I found Philips. And I think it was a match made in heaven. It's one of the few companies that allowed me to be an entrepreneur within an MNC ecosystem. The level of autonomy that I got there, the level of exposure that I got was phenomenal. I had a very long run with Philips in my first stint. I spent 7.5 years there. And a lot of ups and downs happened during that period of time. Multiple businesses were divested by Philips at that point in time. We got into a bunch of new categories. It was a hell of a time. I also got exposed to a lot of different businesses. So I started with appliances, moved to mother and child care, moved to personal care, lots of different experiences across a span of 7 years. After which I decided to move to Coke, another blue chip company, excellent exposure in terms of scale. I think the scale at which Coke does things and Coke thinks is nothing short of inspiring. If there's one place that can teach you scale, it is Coke. And I'm now back at Vasuni for another rocking stint, I hope, and I'm really looking forward to working in this new space and building it and taking it to the next level. So that's a bit of my career journey and how it's been.
Thank you. I think somewhere I so resonate with the conservative family and still giving women the opportunity to kind of do their own things. We are like four siblings at my place as well, two brothers, two sisters. But even my parents always ensure that we get equal opportunity to either study the way we wanted to, play the stuff that we wanted to, go out and do the career choices that we wanted to. So she never differentiated between a boy and girl, and it's really inspiring to see when parents come forward and ensure that their kids get the exposure that they want. And rightfully, that important part, Pooja, that financial independence that women need, so that that dependency on the male does not really happen, and if it comes in earlier on in life, that really really helps. I'm going to move from that, Pooja, to another aspect which always happens in a women's, leadership journey. You do face a lot of challenges when you want to move to the next level and drive your growth. So I want you to talk a little bit about the challenges that you have faced for moving from one role to the other, and how have you used that as an opportunity at times as well, to try and saying, okay, this is a position I should raise my hand for and go out and get it. So a little bit around that, please.
Thanks, Anita, for that question. And I love the way you frame it because I think if I were to summarize my career growth in one sentence of what's been the driver of that career growth, it's pretty much been the fact that I have been fortunate enough to turn my challenges into my opportunities. And I've been very, very ably supported by some phenomenal mentors throughout the journey. And I think my whole learning in that whole in this whole piece is if you really want out of turn growth, if you want stupendous growth in your career, the only way to do it is raise your hand for things that scare you the most, that you found the most challenging. Um, and I'll give you a few examples from my own career trajectory. Um, I started out my career as a trainee in ITC, and then I moved to a marketing role. And then I spent some time in marketing, which was a head office based role. I moved to do strategy with the executive committee of the company, etc. But what I missed doing really was frontline sales. And ITC's primary business is cigarettes. They were still getting into FMCG at that point in time. Foods was already established, but personal care was really new, and they were just trying to set it up. And it was a ITC always launches challenger brands in monopolistic or duopolistic categories. That was their pattern at that point in time. And I really wanted to do a frontline sales. And prior to me, there weren't too many women in sales in that organization that way. And this role opened up in the heart of North India. This was a Rajasthan ASM role. Very seasoned, very mature, very large team of people that needed to be led. And the branch at that point in time needed a fair bit of work. Extremely challenging assignment, especially for a rookie, because I've never done sales before. And I decided to raise my hand for it. Um, and I was told by a lot of my colleagues, my peers at that point in time, why are you wasting your time? Like, one, you're setting yourself up for failure, because in north of India, a seasoned, mature team full of people who've grown up with a certain mindset and have spent their lives in the company are not going to be accepted. So you're going to fail. Um, Plus, of course, this is a very difficult time for that particular region, so maybe you shouldn't do it. And I think I would like to acknowledge that, like I was saying, I've always had been lucky to have some phenomenal mentors. My boss at that point in time was extremely supportive of my decision, and he said, "Go right ahead and do it. Just don't fail because you are a woman. Fail because, well, anybody could have failed. So if you, as long as you don't think that you will fail because you're a woman or you have gender-based challenges, you'll be absolutely fine." I went ahead and did that, and I think the success of that stint taught me so many things about how gender roles are maybe really not as important as we tend to sort of consider them as we go forward in our career. And that whole feeling got cemented when I joined Philips, because I worked with a mentor here, and I don't like to call him my manager, I call him my mentor. I think the best part about that mentor and the best part about this company was that they did not recognize gender as a differentiator at all. So it didn't matter if you were a woman or a man. You were a CMM, you have a job to do, just go ahead and do it, whatever it takes. And I think that's liberating at a very, very different level. Another daunting task was thrown at me at that point in time. We were supposed to create the category of air fryer, which did not exist a decade ago in the country. We were the first players. Extremely expensive product. Again, with some fantastic mentorship around, support of a lovely team, I was able to take up that challenge. Again, could have been set up for failure simply because nobody knew what's going to happen with that. But I was lucky, and the challenge really paid off with the support of the able team that I had. And we managed to create history, not just in the company, but in the category, in the industry. And today it's a thriving 500 crore category for the industry, and everybody wants to take a bite out of it. So I think my whole journey is actually a result of the fact that all challenges became my opportunities to really raise my hand, take up the opportunity, learn a lot, deliver on some, fail on some, but keep growing. I think that's really been my mantra.
So, Pooja, that's what I really, the reason why I frame the question like that is you see few leaders who look at challenges and look at saying, in this challenge lies an opportunity for my growth. And I would like to tell the larger team over here as well, just some statistics so that you really understand the what happens in this gender diversity story, or this male and female war that we really talk about. I was interestingly there in one of our workshops, which is a leadership training, where they actually said when men are almost 60% ready for the role, right, and not even completely ready, they tend to raise their hand that I am ready and willing to take up this role. At the same time, when they researched the women, they needed to be 95% ready for even to raise the hand. So it's extremely important to understand, guys, that don't wait for that absolute perfectionist part and saying, now I'm ready for the next role. And I can say I myself would have possibly raised my hand a bit later in life to go into other roles as well. But go ahead, take that challenge, convert it into opportunity, just like Pooja has done. And 9 out of 10 times, I'm sure you'll succeed. So please go ahead and do that as well, to all the women leaders here.
In fact, Anita, I'm very glad you mentioned the statistic. I read this somewhere and it resonated with me that if you are taking up a job, if you are 100% ready for it or prepared for it, it's actually suboptimal because there's no scope for your personal growth or learning. only when you take it up at 60% readiness, you push yourself, you learn a lot. Of course, you fail sometimes, but that's okay, right? That's part of learning. So, yes, I think to all the women across both the organizations who are watching this, please by all means raise your hand at 60% readiness.
That's a wonderful way of looking at it, because it really pulls out the fact that you need to continue to stimulate your learning, and at 60% you'll probably get to learn a lot on that role. So thanks, Pooja. That's like wonderful input for me as well. I'm going to take it to the next one, which is really about to stay relevant in this changing ecosystem. And when I'm talking about ecosystem, is our marketing and media industry, the advertising industry. There is the sheer amount of change that is happening, and to keep abreast of that change, to keep pace with that change, there is a lot of reskilling, upskilling, learning, unlearning that we want to do. I just wanted to understand from your side, what is it that you do to kind of stay abreast of this industry and the changes that it's making?
Um, I think, Anita, the first step of staying abreast in a changing environment, in a changing industry, is to acknowledge the fact that you need constant upskilling. One of the challenges that I see a lot of people having is to constantly keep saying, I've done this, I know it, and I know it really well. That, I think, is the beginning of the end. As long as you are able to acknowledge and admit to yourself, it doesn't have to be an admission to the world or to anybody, but as long as you're able to admit to yourself that you need constant upskilling, that you need constantly to stay abreast of changes, that things are changing and you need to learn, I think that's half the battle won. I personally continuously keep telling myself that I need to keep myself relevant in this changing ecosystem. It's super important for me to always stay in touch with what's happening. I read a lot, and I pretty much can read anything that comes my way, including LinkedIn posts, Instagram and Facebook posts, newspapers, magazines, books. So I read voraciously. On a flight, usually you will not see me open my laptop and work. I will usually pick up a book, or I will usually leaf through a magazine, because I think having an external perspective is super important for us to even acknowledge that learning is important and you need to learn. Um, the second bit that I do, I think, pretty well and helps me to stay abreast is I love to talk to people and I love to listen to them. But these are not people just within my team or within my organization. Within my organization, I love to have conversations with cross functional teams. I think I spend maximum time talking to people outside of my team, whether it is sales or finance or supply chain or HR. I think everybody who works in a different domain comes with a very different perspective, which opens up your eyes in a different manner. And I think that has always helped me in my career. I've always been able to connect with them much better, understand their challenges much better, and attempt to solve their problems much better, versus if I were to continuously only stay within the marketing ecosystem. Even outside of organization, I make it a point to spend a lot of time with partners like yourself, who work across industries, across clients, and I have a lot of learning to share with people like me. And last but not the least, I love to speak to young startups, young people. Um, of course, they have a lot to teach you in terms of different things that are coming up, technology, AI, machine learning, all of this, they're at the cutting edge of. But more than anything else, I think the next generation of people, not just women, but next generation of men and women have grown up in a very, very different manner. They have very different perspectives on the things that are everyday, that we do in our lives day to day. And speaking with them energizes you and opens up your eyes and minds in a very, very different manner. So I ensure that every week religiously I spend time with at least one person who is working in a domain which is different from mine, is in a completely different age group, um, and usually has a take on things which I haven't thought of before. And I think that sort of allows me to keep up my learning game and keep myself relevant in this whole ecosystem.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Pooja. Some really nice nuggets. We'll just talk about a little bit about the stuff that we're trying to do at Kara to try and build this ecosystem of learning. So, interestingly, Megha Ahuja, who's one of my leaders in my team, is running a mentor-mentee, program which is called Open Hours. As part of that initiative, we've had right up from seniors to interns actually doing sessions for an hour. And it's a very conversational style of open hour. Not necessarily it has a PowerPoint presentation, but it will have, a question and answer format. So any stuff on a particular subject that you have your doubts on, or you're not clear on, it could be simple stuff and saying, okay, TV planning, I want to just understand the basics of it and I get stuck in ABCD places. Have a conversation with this expert who knows TV plans inside out and spend that hour trying to get your doubts cleared, etc. and everything. Similarly, when we wanted an intern to kind of do it, and like you said, that youngsters of today are very, very different. We wanted to understand chat GPT, or we wanted to understand gaming. We got them to put in something together and share with a larger team on what is the implication of this new technology, and what is their perspective and point of view on it, and how do they kind of find solves on trying to use this in the businesses. So it's interesting to see the variety of experiences that you've taken, and I love the one specifically on listening, because again, as a leader, that does not come naturally. You tend to talk more. You need to listen more as you go higher, because that's when you land up absorbing a lot. So that's another nugget which I really pick up very, very well. How much time do you give the people to talk? And if that ratio becomes like a 20/80, where you listen more and talk less, I think you'd land up enriching yourself as a professional. So that's a really other nice one, Pooja, from your side, which I'm picking up, from this conversation. I'm coming to the next one, which again is an area which genuinely needs good management, and that's really the stakeholders or our reporting bosses that we kind of work in with. Uh, Once you reach at a leadership position, there is a lot of let me not make it naive. I will say politics. There is a lot of uh, inside out happening, and there is a little bit of friction between senior leaders, etc., and everything, where it's more about, let's say, competition, but the collaboration that you really need with the leadership team. Somewhere we do feel that in organizations at that top level, there seems to be some friction between leaders, and especially if there's a woman leader sitting on top with a band of let's say male counterparts. There seems to be some amount of friction within that. You have obviously a boss who's a male. I just want you to I wanted to understand, and I know that your boss has been super, super empowering for you as a professional. But in any area of your life where you felt that stakeholder management, whether it was at ITC or a Coke, where you felt it was challenging, and how did you, what was the advice you gave yourself on how to manage that situation?
So I acknowledge, Anita, stakeholder management is probably the most important skill that is needed as you grow in your career. I think again I've been fortunate to work with people directly who've at least not never viewed me from a gender lens, and I think that happened in my career very early on. And I have therefore grown in my career being very gender oblivious at a certain level. So I don't feel hostility or anything coming to me from my peer set or from my seniors because of my gender. Whatever comes to me, positive or negative, is because of what I bring to the table. And I've been fortunate, I can say that. Um, but that might or might not be true for everyone. I also acknowledge that. But I feel when we think about stakeholder management, very often what we try to do is we try and map stakeholders, and we consciously try and really manage them, while what might be super important for us to do is to again take a step back and recognize the fact that they are stakeholders because they have a stake in what you do. Whatever you are doing is going to impact them in certain manner, in one manner or the other. And recognition of that fact at one point in time in my career made me realize, in fact somebody said that to me, that end of the day, your manager wants to know something from you because she or he needs to manage their senior leaders at some point in time. And the best way to really manage this whole chain is to be completely transparent. Very often, when we are insecure, we try to withhold information, we try to cover up things, and we try and project ourselves in a certain manner which we might or might not be able to deliver upon. And I think that leads to a massive loss of trust, lack of authenticity, and ends up creating trust deficit between stakeholders, especially when it's in a leadership position, because there are very few people involved and the stakes are really high. I think my go-to mantra in such situations has always been to be absolutely transparent and honest. I know it's easier said than done, because there are times when the chips are down. There are times when you don't know what the solution to a particular problem might be, and raising your hand and stating it in so many manner, in so many words at that point in time, can be very very intimidating. It can feel really scary. But I think I always choose the more courageous thing to do as a person. And my advice to everyone, especially all the women who are listening to this, is to not beat yourself in times like this and say, hey, I wasn't able to do this. How can I go and say this to my boss or to my stakeholder? I think the best way to manage stakeholders is to acknowledge and be really, really transparent about everything that's happening in the organization. Most often than not, you will be able to come up with a solution. And at the very least, the bond of trust between you and your stakeholders is going to be so strong that it will help you tide over the situation. At least there'll be one less thing to worry about, that, hey, there is somebody constantly watching over your shoulder because they don't trust you. I think having that one comfort at a senior level itself is a very, very big deal. So I think transparency encourages a way to go when you are doing stakeholder management at any level with anybody.
Thanks. Very interestingly put, Pooja. And I'm just going to, take out one of the nugget that I got, when I was being coached by, a professional on my leadership skills. And he actually made a comment which was very, very interesting, and it kind of hit me hard. See, saying empathetic leadership. And when you look at empathetic leadership, is about putting yourself in the other person's shoes, right? So every time you feel that there is some amount of friction between you and your stakeholder, put yourself into that person's shoe, understand why he is doing A, B, and C, and then come back to your own shoe and then look at it from that perspective. And that, when you consciously start doing time and again, will give you a better understanding of your stakeholder. You'll be able to build a better rapport as well, because now what you're essentially doing is getting into his shoes, understanding what are the challenges that he is facing. So to your point that you made, right, if you're giving it, you're sharing it, you're not insecure about being transparent and honest and stuff that you're doing, I think that helps a lot in building that stakeholder relationship as well. So that's really, really good to kind of see getting done. I'm going to move to the next one, Pooja, which is, an interesting spin. A lot of our learnings that come to our life, we're in professional. How do we use that in our personal lives? And a lot of the personal life learnings that we have, we tend to use in our professional lives. So could you give us a few examples where both have been done, where professional has been used in a personal space, and the other one where the personal learning has been used in the professional space?
I really don't know how to answer that question, Anita, because I, for one, is not the kind of person who's able to segregate personal from professional really well. I've never understood this concept. Sometimes when I take interviews for people, people ask me this question in the interview, saying, "How is the work-life balance in your place?" And I get very confused. Even as an interviewer, I get very confused because I don't understand why work and life have to be two separate portions that need to be balanced. And likewise, personal and professional, for me, I am one and the same person personally and professionally. And therefore, the way I react in some of the professional situations is very similar to the way I will react in personal life in a situation like that. Um, I've been throughout my anecdotes and throughout my career journeys. I think one of the things that I've been repeatedly saying is that I like to take challenges head on. I'm not the one uh, who's I actually embrace the things that I'm most afraid of very often. My personal life is marked by those things, by those issues, whether it was stepping out of the house at a very young age to go and live in a hostel where nobody else in my family has done that, whether it is living alone in a completely unknown new city all by yourself. Um, and that too in a city like Gurgaon, which is not considered the safest of the cities in the world for women, or whether it is about raising your hand for an assignment which nobody else wants to take because it seems like it's setting up for failure. I think my mantra in life, personally or professionally, has always been to embrace what scares you the most, because that is where maximum opportunity to outperform lies. Also maximum risk of failure, but then also maximum learning. I like that hit of challenge. I like it when somebody tells me in face that, oh, that's not something you can do. I have there's very interesting bachpan ka story that I have. I used to be very small, maybe I don't know, 7 8 years old or something, and we are from a small village in Rajasthan ancestrally. And I remember once I was on a trip in that village with my parents, and some village, you know how villages are, right? There are like all the village folk come to your house to meet you when you're there, etc., because you're the city people and all of that. So some of these really well-meaning women came to our house to meet our family, and I've grown up in a joint family, so grandparents, etc., and everyone. And I very distinctly remember one of those women telling my father, and in a very condescending manner, telling my father that, oh, we really feel for you because you've got two daughters. What will happen to you in your old age? Who will take care of you, etc. The irony of the whole fact was this particular lady had three sons and she was living alone, fending for herself because none of her sons would take care of her. And nothing against men in that respect. It's just a certain mindset that I'm trying to illustrate that I've experienced at that point in time. I think at that point in time, and I was around, like I was sitting and playing around when I heard this comment being made for my father, and my father chose to just ignore and move on. But I think that sort of stuck with me at some point in time. And I said, okay, this is a challenge that this lady seems to be throwing at me, saying, okay, you can't take care of your parents because you are a woman. And I am going to do that, and I'm going to sort of prove her wrong at a certain level. Unfortunately, now the lady is no more. May God rest her soul. But I think in general, I am the kind of person who likes to embrace things that are usually considered difficult or challenging and then prove or disprove them. Uh, I wouldn't say I haven't failed. I've failed plenty of times in this reckless pursuit of challenge in my life, but I think it's okay. Personally and professionally, I like to be really authentic. I often talk to people around me with my teams without mincing my words. Sometimes it might or might not land really well with them, but I think over a period of time, everyone around me has learned to realize and understand that I'm a very authentic person. I say what I feel, and if I don't feel something which is sugar coated, I will say it in so many words. And I think that's been my professional and personal mantra throughout. And I think that's what I will continue to do even as I go forward. I'm not the one to learn easily or change easily. Um, so yeah, I think that's what really happened between personal and professional life. That's what I've learned between the two, that you have to be one person, you have to be authentic. That there is something that you agree with everywhere. And there's something if you don't, then you don't.
I just love the perspective that as as a person, as an individual, you need to stay the same. It does not matter the environment that you're in. And even when I look at work and life, and if in one of the places I wrote, it's not a really work-life balance. It's really work-life integration. How is
Yes.
it that I play, the role that I have to play when I'm, in my professional role, or what is it when I want to do in my personal side of things? So it's really around that work-life balance integration that you really want to do. So let's not call it work life balance, but more integration in that sense. I'm going to move to, the last question before I open it up to my team for questions. What is the advice you would like to give women for crafting their growth journey?
Um, Very simple. Um, for yourself, when you are evaluating yourself, or you are planning for yourself, or you're strategizing for yourself, or when someone else is having that conversation with you or that discussion for you, try and be gender agnostic. I think being gender agnostic is the best advice that has worked for me. And that is the advice that I'd like to give every woman who aspires to have a career in her life. The more gender agnostic we are to ourselves, the more gender agnostic the world will be to us. And I think that's the summary advice that I would want to give to every woman out here on this call. Believe you me, you will see a very, very different world opening up the moment you shed your own gender baggage. There are gender values that both genders bring to the table, which are very innate, inherent to who we are. And I think that's the beauty of it. Let's not color it or dot it by saying, oh, because I'm a man, these are the things allowed or not allowed, or possible or not possible, or oh, because I'm a woman, these are things allowed or not allowed, or possible or not possible. Shed the gender baggage from your own mind and heart, and you'll realize that the world is a relatively easier place to live.
Thank you so much, Pooja, for that. I'm just going to add one bit, which I was listening to one of the panel conversation in the women's panel yesterday, and a particular point that I raised during that. It was around the change in leadership. There used to be a control and command leadership, primarily dominated by the style of how male leaders worked. And there's now today a lot of talk around relational leadership, right? So where you're able to nurture and groom your talent a lot better. And if I may, say it to the larger women leaders on the call here, that quality, that nature, the nurturing quality, or the understanding of the other person's perspective, the ability to be vulnerable, the ability to understand what individuals are going through. There was an article which in fact talked about, instead of learning from male leaders, it's high time we started learning from female leaders, because they seem to be doing a lot better job on their roles than the male counterparts. So thank you, Pooja, for the wonderful session planned in. I'm going to open it up to a few of my colleagues and a few of your colleagues for questions over the last 5-7 minutes that we have with us. So teams, any questions?
Yeah, I'll go, Anita. Thank you
Yes,
so much,
Kamla.
Pooja. Yeah, thank you so much. It was really great start of the day, and it's been very motivating. What all we heard from Pooja, and I feel there is a lot to learn. On this platform, Pooja, I want to take this opportunity to invite you for mentor mentee program that we do, and that Anita spoke about. So it will be really great if you can just come, spare some time with us, and give us more gyan, and I think that will really help everybody. And I think that's all from my side. It was really amazing, and I really feel I really want to spend more time and get more from you.
Thank you so much for saying that, Kamla. Anytime. I'd love to participate in the mentor mentee program that you guys
Yeah,
are running. So please feel free to connect with me, and we'll figure out a way. But irrespective of the mentor mentee program,
yeah.
you and I have worked very closely for a while. Please feel free to walk in. Our office is in a beautiful campus called Bharti World Mark, which has got some lovely cafes and eateries. We can always have a cup of coffee. And a conversation about
Certainly.
anything that you feel like doing at any point in time. Just give me a call and walk across.
Thank you so much, Pooja. Thank you so much.
Uh, Hi Pooja, Megha here.
Hi,
Thank
Megha.
you so much. It was quite a relatable session, and thank you for that. Just generally wanted to check with this because this is my personal opinion that more than successes, I think failures make you learn more than anything else. Is there been a failure where you found it difficult to overcome, but it's eventually managed to make you learn a lot more than the successes that you've had in life?
Yes, absolutely. Mika, I completely agree with you that failures make you learn a lot more than successes do. But that's also only because we never sit and dissect successes and try to learn from them. Success is almost like the finale. You cut the cake and you move on, while you tend to dissect your failures a lot more and therefore you learn a lot more from them. Um, uh, Divesting my first startup within 1.5 years of operation at one level, when I had to do that, felt like failure to me at that point in time. Even till date, over lunchtime conversations, I often ruminate what would life have been had I found means to sustain myself through the rocky period that I went in, and I decided to divest. Who knows? I might have been at a different place altogether today. Um, but I think, in hindsight, whether I call it a failure or a success is irrelevant. I think what those 1.5 years taught me is invaluable. I learned the value of what, and I might sound really silly to some people when I say this, but I really learned the value of what corporate world brings to the table for us as people. There are so many things that we take for granted as corporate employees. It's not funny. And you start realizing those very simple things the moment you're out of that net and the moment the clock starts ticking on your personal funds. And it's really funny. Okay, I'll just take a minute to narrate this. I remember when I quit my job, so I served the notice period and I came back home and I was setting up shop in Calcutta because I wanted to keep expenses down. So I went back living with my parents and getting them to fund my living and everything else. And on the first day morning, I needed to get a few printouts to sort of go and have my first client conversations. And my first realization was that in a cyber cafe, every A4 colored printout costing me 15 rupees. And I wanted to get 100 printouts because I wanted to distribute them. And I was like, oh my God, this is 1500 bucks going out of my pocket with zero revenue coming in. What am I doing? In office, I have never thought about taking a printout twice simply because I don't have to pay for it, right? It's a very small thing, and I'm not saying stop taking printouts in office just because of this, but I think the realization of the value of money, the value of time, the value of someone else's time, all of that happens makes you realize that the corporate world that we sometimes crib so much about gives us a lot of comfort to operate in. The positions that we occupy in our companies open a lot of doors for us, which for an entrepreneur is very very difficult. And I think that was one very large part of my learning. The other large part of my learning really was around the fact that the devil is in the details. Again, as we grow in our careers, we start zooming out of things, right? And we start delegating a lot more to our teams. We start depending on them to look into the finer things of things and execute properly. Believe you me, when you go back as a solopreneur, when you're starting something from scratch, you realize there are so many finer things about every industry, every domain that you work in, which you wouldn't know if you've not experienced it and done it with your own hands. So I think that failure taught me quite a few life lessons, which I carry with me, and I think that's genuinely transformed the way I work as a professional, even after I came back to the corporate world. So yeah, and I have plenty failure stories, Megha, to narrate. So someday, if you're keen on learning more failure stories, feel free to give me a call, and we can always catch up.
No, thank you, Pooja. This is helpful. Even I think I'll in my head keep in mind when next time I'm taking out a printer because yes, it matters. I'll take care of
And
that.
that you should keep in mind so that you stop cutting down more trees and wasting
Yeah,
paper.
yeah, correct. But now there is a story also attached to it. So definitely. Thank you.
Thank you so
So I'm going
much.
to ask the Varsini folks. This is your chance to ask questions to Pooja as well. So anybody from Pooja's end from Varsini would like to ask a question, please?
I think they get plenty of time to ask me questions in office only.
If no one's going to do that, I'm going to get the Kara folks to then take that time out for Pooja and ask her the next question.
Madhurima here from Versuni. So, no questions for Pooja. I just wanted to highlight, like Pooja mentioned, right? We get tons of time from her, considering the tight schedule that she runs with, and the kind of volume she manages. She actually never, shies away from giving time to her team, and whenever we need to speak to her, she's always there. So, I just wanted to reiterate what Pooja mentioned. We do get time from her when we need it. Thank you, Pooja.
Thank you so much, Madhu. It was so sweet.
Kara team, last question before we wrap up. Anybody? No more, guys? Okay, then I'm going to say, Pooja, thank you so very, very much. It's been an absolute delight, honor, and privilege to host this session. And I look forward to having you with us on our mentor mentee sessions. For Megha Ahuja, who leads it, she's just heard that. And the next time you'll immediately see an invite coming back to you saying, when can we do that? Because that's Megha Ahuja for us. But it's been an absolute honor and privilege. Thank you so much for doing this for us. And happy Women's Day once again to you. A very happy Holi. Enjoy the colors that you're going to do with your niece right now. And have a wonderful, wonderful day ahead. Thank you, everyone. Team from Varsuni, thank you so much for joining us. Kara team, thank you so much. Especially the Bombay and Bangalore team. You had an off today, but everybody wanted to come in and listen to this conversation, Pooja. So on their off days, they've all been here. So thank you so much to all of you for being here. Thank you so much, Pooja, once again. Pooja, we're going to be sending you a small memento from our side, but we know you're in Calcutta. So hopefully once you're back in office, we hope you like the little memento that we will send across to you. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Thank you so much, Anita. It was an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you. You know, I love to talk to you anyways, anywhere. But thank you so much for this opportunity to bring my story out and share some anecdotes from my career with you. And thank you so much, everyone who's taken time out from both teams to really come and listen to me. Means a lot to me. And I wish all of you guys stupendous, fantastic careers ahead, a lovely Women's Day, and a very, very happy Holi. Have a great time.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Pooja.
you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pooja.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Anita.
you.
Everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Anita.